Why do men eat poorly?
We really pigged out? Yeah.
What kind of food worsens a man's health?
I thought you'd ask which restaurant has the best croissants.
So what should I do?
Drink tea with blueberries? God, I sound like an old man.
My friends, hello. We're together again, and today my friend is visiting me. I mostly invite my friends. My friend Oleg Irishkin is a PhD, a nutritionist, a lecturer, a scientist, the author of many books, and a regular guest on all federal channels. Oleg is an excellent specialist. Because there are a lot of big names with lots of titles and ranks, but in reality they don't amount to much. I'm sure about you, I know you, and we've worked together, led people, and given consultations. So, thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me, Sash.
Today, I want to talk to you in this kind of format, thank you. I put myself in our viewers' shoes and thought about who watches us. I checked the statistics, and it's mostly guys around 30, 35 years old who are into sports and a healthy lifestyle. And they're not just trying to eat this or that, they're always trying to understand why something is healthy and why something is harmful. And, there are a lot of fools on the internet who are so sure they're right that they start giving all sorts of nonsense advice. And today I'm going to talk to you in a curious way, asking questions that are most interesting to my audience. By answering them, I'm sure you'll bring them a lot of value. So guys, make sure to listen carefully. And everything Oleg says, you don't even need to double check. As they say, there's a term, opinion leader. That means a leader of opinions. So whatever he says, that's the truth.
Let's figure it out. Let's take a look and sort out all the nuances and myths about healthy eating, because there really are a lot of them. And of course, I want to say right away that in our lives, there is no such thing as harmful or beneficial. Everything is individual.
Yes, basically, I could even poison you with water if you drink too much of it.
Of course,
Which,
no matter how useful it might be.
First question, why do men eat poorly? In general,
If you look at it generally,
the average man and woman eat, well, statistically speaking, why? Most often? Specifically, all kinds of junk food, bad food, improperly cooked food, like mayonnaise with spaghetti, everything with eggs, everything cooked in one pot. Why do men abuse this more often? Well,
really, if I have a consultation with a man, I always do it as a family consultation, meaning the man and his wife. Since his wife will be cooking, not him, that's usually how it is, even during consultations. I'm asking again, what are the priorities? So, for men, healthy eating is not a priority. The priority is earning money. That's it.
well, a man is a provider.
Being a provider is the priority, so healthy eating stays, but time is limited. People rarely considered what, how, or why they ate, but that's changing now. A man understands that to earn more, he needs to invest in his health, and that's exactly what's happening. Investment in health, in healthy eating, in medical checkups, in screenings. In order to be more effective, to stay in a resourceful state all the time, and to achieve even more. That's why we are now seeing a good trend in this.
You and I have guided and consulted many people, including some very famous and wealthy individuals. By the way, Oleg and I first met at that consultation. And I think you'll agree if I say that the secret of success, when people ask what's the secret of success, why are you so productive, so efficient, why do you have so much energy? It's health. And if you look at health as a pyramid, then at the very bottom, and probably the most basic, the foundation, is nutrition, proper nutrition. No matter what kind of genetics you have, if you eat whatever you want, it's only a matter of time before your body starts to fall apart and you begin to develop illnesses.
Let's remember this classic classification from the World Health Organization. 50% lifestyle, 20% genetics, 20% environment, and only 10% quality of medical care. And, as I say in my lectures, Amosov said that doctors treat diseases, but you have to earn your own health.
Well, as we're used to saying, I have big bones. It's my bad genetics. I don't lose weight at the gym because my grandmother was like that too. But people are used to it. Unfortunately, friends, that's how it is. A large part of you, unfortunately, always blames someone else, not the person whose hand it is. It's easier.
It's easier. Also, here's an important point. We're dealing with metabolic changes, but metabolism doesn't hurt, diabetes doesn't hurt, obesity doesn't hurt, and metabolic syndrome doesn't hurt either. And symptoms appear only when there are already complications.
Our patients, especially in oncology, mainly use pain as their primary reference point. They can face terrible things. So if it doesn't hurt, it means everything is fine, but if it hurts, it means something is wrong. And often there are very serious illnesses that push you right to the edge. You're 5 minutes away from your end, but you feel fine. Here's a simple example of a metabolic problem: kidney failure. We had patients come in. One about 10 years ago stands out. He tried to see me 3 or 4 times but couldn't. At the appointment, he had kidney failure and was afraid. In the end, he died, basically without even waiting for the consultation. He left, returned home, ran away again, and died. Nothing hurt, he went to work every day. So, the main question is, what exactly is supposed to happen? So where is that wake-up call, the one that usually makes people come to you? That's why he came, not someone else.
Yeah, good question. For example, I had a checkup. By the way, yes, I did a checkup. They gave me a checkup as a gift. By the way, it's interesting. A lot of women order gift certificates from me for their men. Gift certificates for a consultation. Like a present, a checkup, they give gifts, had a checkup. Everything is in the red zone. Uric acid, creatinine, alanine, aminotransferase, aspartate aminotransferase, and lipoproteins. Here's an example, actually.
Petuka, help save me. Yes.
Why is everything suddenly in the red zone for me, even though nothing hurts? Here you go. That's an example.
You know, back in the day, right? When a pharaoh died, his servants were buried with him. Yeah, exactly, when a Viking died. Even if the wife was bursting with health, well, if I'm not mistaken, she would be buried with him too. Just imagine that in modern Russia. If that's how it was, if the husband got sick, died, then the wife, no second husband, straight into the grave. Can you imagine how the ladies would be watching every sneeze and cough there? Oh dear, you've gained a lot of weight. You really shouldn't eat that. Absolutely not. Well, that's a joke, of course. So basically, my third question was about the influence of family on a man's health. That is, family.
Tremendous influence. Tremendous influence. Because, again, you see, when speaking to a man, he just tells his wife what and how to eat. It will turn out like a game of broken telephone, so it will be easier if she calls herself. We will discuss everything in detail. What to eat, how to cook. She cooks everything perfectly.
Sometimes children are overfed. Our guys are watching and saying that I don't know how to eat properly because I wasn't taught to do it. So it's either grandma's, dad's, or mom's fault. They fed me everything. Chips since childhood, cola since childhood, ice cream, everything. I often visit some friends and I see their child is still very little, but they give him everything, whatever he can reach, whatever he wants. He's already eating McDonald's. Yeah, and tell me, how harmful is this really? And does it have any impact? What? I try to explain that if you don't teach them in childhood, if they eat the wrong way as a child, then the structure of their adult body will be different. Even if you start eating properly later, when you grow up, what happened to you while you were developing can't be changed anymore. And when a child doesn't realize how to eat properly, it's the parents who are responsible for that. And that's why many kids who are overweight now, even if they're dieting, find it hard to be slim and fit because their metabolism is, let's say, damaged. Is that possible? Yes, it is.
I'll try to explain everything in detail now. Just a few weeks ago, I organized a public event and gave lectures, healthy eating lessons in schools. In biology class, I taught the kids about healthy eating and explained what and how to eat. I also asked, what did you have for breakfast? Half the kids skip breakfast. Some eat sausage, some salami, and some just have coffee. And accordingly, parents eat the same way. So it turns out that children's nutrition is a reflection of their parents' nutrition. You just really need to accept this. Parents should prioritize their own nutrition before focusing on their children's. And it can't be that parents eat burgers, but you, the child, aren't allowed to eat burgers.
I remember my school days. I don't know how kids eat now. I remember we had something like a conveyor belt where food with trays would move along. That must have been a pretty good school. No, it was just a regular place. You'd eat, put in your tray, and it disappeared. Nobody asked what you wanted or could eat. Lactose intolerance? Back then, nobody knew about gluten. I'm already pretty old, so.
I see. So, the food was decent. You had a first course, second course, and dessert, not just a bun for breakfast and lunch.
I had a bun at school. I remember white bread, a big piece of butter, and they gave us jam or something sweet. So, objectively speaking, now that I think back to what I ate at school, no one really taught us, first of all, how to eat properly. They should have taught us that in school.
Yeah, but really, we always see statistics about the increasing percentage of people with obesity. Are you working out? The percentage of people with diabetes is also increasing. Although you shouldn't think that if you eat poorly, eat pastries and work out, your health will still be good.
Like, it'll burn off, it'll burn off, it'll burn off, it'll burn off, I'll go.
I'll work it off. It's nice to think that. But there are real dangers too.
Let's move on to some practical questions that I wanted to ask today so that by getting answers to them, there would be pure benefit. The question I get asked most often, and I think you get asked too, is how much protein should you eat normally? Protein scoops, for example, usually contain about 29/10 of an ounce, I think. And so people started saying that you can only absorb 25 grams of protein at a time. In my mind, I realized that I weigh 110, 115 kilograms, while a girl might weigh only 35, 40 kilograms. And how can you say all this, that it's individual? It's probably somehow... Oh.
I say, of course, everything is individual, yes. There's a belief that only 25 grams of protein or 30 grams of protein can be absorbed. That's what they say too. But let's figure it out. Indeed, absorption is personalized. After that, everything depends on the method of cooking and the condition of the intestines. So, if you overeat shashlik and then feel bloated or gassy, well, we're doctors, I'll just be direct. Gas formation, then putrid gas the next day. But guys, the protein isn't being digested. That is because of this putrid gas formation, putrid dyspepsia occurs. The meat rots, you overate, there's protein. Therefore, the best option is not to eat shashlik in this case if you have bloating and fermentation, but to consume protein prepared by gentle methods. You shouldn't feel embarrassed thinking, I'm a man, I'll eat fried shashlik. You can also eat steamed chicken cutlets.
And it will be digested.
Better.
It's not just protein amount, but also its form. Ground protein is easier to digest.
It's easier to digest and absorb. If you have bloating, fermentation, or gas, absorption isn't happening.
So, it turns out the criterion is this. If I eat a certain portion and I don't feel bloated, there's no heaviness, probably no unpleasant sensations.
Your body is digesting the protein. And if you start having symptoms from your gastrointestinal tract, you shouldn't torture yourself even more by eating even more protein. Stop for a while and switch to a gentle diet.
But if I'm hungry, for example, and I've had a long break, like a 24-hour intermittent fast, then after a long break, I can probably eat more, I guess.
About intermittent fasting, remember everything has both indications and contraindications. If a person has gallstone disease, intermittent fasting is not suitable, so it's very important to get a medical examination.
Now, about fermentation, for example, I personally can't digest dairy products. Everyone has unique traits, and you
know this. So there are symptoms, right? Or did blood tests show it? And
many people are interested in and monitor their gastrointestinal tract, trying not to consume certain things because they believe this or that is harmful. And the most common question regarding harm is about sports nutrition. Specifically, if we narrow it down, it's about protein and gainers. How much are they considered a normal part of food nowadays? How harmful or beneficial are they? And what is your opinion of them as a professional nutritionist?
Again, I'll tell it like it is. Protein is not a way to replace a meal. Protein is a supplement to your daily diet. I tell my students nutrition is our foundation. We've built healthy eating habits. You have breakfast, lunch, an afternoon snack, and dinner. If you lack protein, we add protein powder, but we don't use it to replace a whole meal. No, that's not how it works. That's just what people want. That's how many marketing companies operate. Well, network marketing. So, for network marketing, it's important that a person doesn't have lunch, dinner, or breakfast, but only drinks powdered food. What's the advantage? Yes, the business works, but we don't get fiber, we don't get the necessary fatty acids, and again, the intestines don't function properly. And as a supplement, it can be used. I'm talking about protein. But as for the gainer, that's a completely different story.
gainer. Basically, it turns out that even if
Carbohydrates, after all, it's a mix. These are carbs and they make your belly grow. Especially if a person has a genetic predisposition to abdominal obesity. Thin legs, muscular arms, but there's a belly. This is the abdominal body type, abdominal obesity. This person has it. Maybe you drink a gainer and your belly grows even more. And if your belly is growing, insulin resistance is already starting to form nearby.
Here's a question. Many guys might ask a reasonable question now, but not everyone is an eater. I love to eat. I can eat a lot. When I was a kid, I never needed to be told, for mom, for dad. I would grab the spoon myself. I'll decide for myself who I should eat for. In fact, they gave me less than I wanted. And there are guys who, for example, want to gain weight. Based on their calculations, he needs a certain amount of protein, but physically he struggles to eat that much. And they start consuming protein in powder form, adding more. But here's the question. How do you feel about the fact that he has a meal and he needs, let's say, to fit into his calories, proteins, fats, and carbs so that everything is fine? He needs a certain amount of protein, but he can't get enough from regular food, so he adds protein powder after his normal meal. How healthy or harmful is it when you, right after a regular protein meal, doesn't matter if it's chicken or something else, drink protein powder on top of it, all of that?
I haven't seen any statistics that would say this could be harmful. So, to say that it's harmful and you shouldn't do it? No, I wouldn't say that. I'll put it differently. In that case, we would need to distribute meals throughout the day. In other words, I'm not the kind of nutritionist who believes you should eat once a day or twice a day. Because, in addition to that, I also focus on gut health. So eating once or twice a day inevitably leads to a deterioration of the gut microbiota. That's why I still recommend that if we're gaining weight, it's better to have at least 4 meals a day.
Oleg, look, I have another question. Recently, I saw a video. I think it was Nick Walker again, but I've seen a lot of similar videos. He doesn't really like chewing chicken, so he takes about 300 or 400 grams of boiled chicken and puts it in a blender. He just adds regular water, puts in something for taste, blends it all into a mush, and then drinks that mush.
What did I just say about a gentle diet, see? So, rubbery chicken will be much harder to digest than blended chicken. Again, let's take patients who have had surgeries on their gastrointestinal organs. No one will give him pork.
Yes, there is a gentle diet. For instance, when I perform bowel resections during surgery, I remove it. First, I fast completely, then switch to soups, broths, and porridge. Only light food until I heal.
Even the chicken meat will be blanched.
In some kind of souffle. In a souffle.
Not a piece, not fried.
Of chicken. But, in principle, it's not harmful. I mean, there's no harm in the fact that I'm not chewing. Food in the mouth isn't digested by saliva as many claim, but it's still better to chew.
If it's all meals, absolutely all the time, like I said, powdered food, then it's harmful. Because the intestines need to work, they need to get fiber if it's just one of the meals. Or, for example, chicken. Like you said, an athlete may not want to chew it, but will happily eat a vegetable salad. Then yes, there's no problem here.
Another question about salt. There are people who don't use it at all, and there are people who constantly add a lot of it everywhere they can. And everyone does it for different reasons. Some people think that salt is, as they call it, white poison. Others say that it's impossible to live without salt. I'm also a supporter of balance, There's a certain norm. And I have 2 questions. First, regarding salt, what's your general attitude and how much? Suppose an average guy weighs around 80, give or take 5 kilograms. How can he determine what's normal? Based on swelling or not? And the second question right away, Himalayan salt is very trendy now. No matter which store you go to.
Is it trendy? Yes, that's the answer. It's trendy.
Well, why did I ask? That question wasn't present. We were preparing for the interview. Sasha was in the Himalayas and he says, listen, I was in the Himalayas. There's no pink salt there. They say, what salt? Himalayan salt. What's that? What's that? I mean, it's not there. And in fact, I'll tell you, of course. Yeah, from what I know, it's just regular salt that's dyed but sold for 3 times more. So tell us about salt and Himalayan salt. Of course.
As for salt, here's an 85 kilogram man, 85 kilograms. How come? Is it due to muscle or fat mass?
Normal, maintained.
So let's look at blood pressure. So my friends, dear ones, you still always need to take care of yourselves. You need to do a checkup. You need to measure your blood pressure. If your blood pressure is normal, in general, there is again a standard. It's 5 grams of salt per day. That's the norm. We already have enough salt in our food. It's in bread, again, and sodium is in meat and fish. Yes.
Opened, like...
And sugar. Yes, added sugar too. So, if you want to add more salt, you taste it. It's not salty enough. You add more salt and it's okay. But if people overdo it with salt, there will still be a tendency for blood pressure to rise. It's a tendency. Again, to understand how to reduce salt, for example, if we give up salt for a week or two, the same thing happens as when we give up sugar for 2 weeks. If we return to our old eating habits, that dish will already taste too salty. This means that our recommendation is that receptors get used to it. Our receptors get used to everything. We won't be able to live without fast food, without glutamate and sodium, because our receptors get used to it. If you avoid fast food for weeks, eating a burger can make you feel sick.
When I was competing in bodybuilding, especially in classic bodybuilding, you have to give up everything. Initially, I prepped the traditional way, no dairy, no salt, and only carbs for water at the end. And you don't dream about fatty steaks or fancy dishes. You want cake? No, you want soup, you want milk, you want regular cottage cheese. And when you start eating carbs, don't eat buckwheat. Trust me, no salt, nothing, just plain boiled buckwheat. Yes, it
Will seem
everything tastes delicious. And that's when I realized that I started to treat food very differently after I had denied myself for a long period of time. I'm still waiting for an answer about the Himalayan question.
I'll finish, of course.
Yes, so I don't forget, one of my questions is, why does all food taste better in childhood? When I went to McDonald's, the taste made my head spin.
I'll answer, but I'm just assuming. That was in the 90s, right? Yeah, the 90s. There wasn't much tasty food back then. I remember my first visit to McDonald's on Pushkinskaya. It was pure bliss, just amazing.
But the taste was incredible.
What was Rostic's like? And now you can find tasty food on every corner, what used to be in short supply.
So we've just gotten spoiled, really.
Spoiled, big time, right? Sweet salt, monosodium glutamate, any burgers, any meat, that's what makes it tasty. That's it, I don't want it.
I've tried it, don't...
Give me something else. Salt.
Himalayan, what?
Yes, Himalayan salt is more of a trend than any real necessity. Yes, sources say that it really does contain more.
There are either 40 or 32 trace elements, depending on the source.
Yes. But the amount is so small. Even though these are trace elements, the amount is so small you can't make up for a deficiency in magnesium, zinc, selenium, or anything else.
And iodine in salt, people say iodized salt is for this purpose.
We don't need Himalayan salt. So, it's very important, dear friends, to understand that marketing exists. On marketing, let me mention something. Everyone remembers the cartoon Popeye the Sailor?
Well, spinach, yes, spinach.
You gain strength from eating spinach. No, you don't get stronger from spinach. There was just so much spinach that they needed to sell it. How do you sell spinach? They created a cartoon with hidden ads claiming spinach gives you strength and sold it in cans. That's it. Even after 60 years, this company still exists and sells spinach. Cool. The same thing, let me just say right away about avocados. That's also marketing. I mean, our huge love for avocados right now, and that's the result of perfectly planned marketing research, marketing
code. So you don't need to buy avocados. So what's the alternative to avocados, and what is
an avocado? Avocado is a product, yes. It contains fat. That's omega-9. Olives also have omega-9, and again, fiber. Fiber is in any vegetable, but
it's tasty.
Avocado is tasty, yes, but again, it's marketing. Look at how it all became popular 10 years ago. I remember how I bought an avocado back then. I bought a hard one, bit into it like an apple. I felt sick, and then I didn't eat it for several years. What is this junk? And the popularization. I mean, photos, all sorts of avocado-shaped toys for kids, keychains, blocks with avocados, avocado-themed bedding. The Chinese even released avocado-shaped sneakers, avocado sandwiches. So there is popularization. Yes, it's tasty, of course, it's great, but you have to keep in mind that, again, it's just a trend. If people here think healthy eating means eating avocados, but I can't, does that mean I'm wrong? No.
You don't have to.
Don't forget. Coconuts, avocados, Himalayan salt, chia seeds, goji berries. These are not the same as healthy eating. It's just one of the trends.
We have all kinds of viewers, not just in Moscow.
That's what I mean, yeah. And
everyone has a different income. And I understand perfectly well how much an average Russian earns. Well, some people live on 25,000 a month. Some even live on 20,000. The average regional salary is about 35 or maybe 50. Naturally, when discussing nutrition or watching popular Insta bloggers, many people...
Yeah, bloggers, right?
Exactly, yeah. Bloggers like me, smoothies, this and that. Look, there's veganism. And of course, there's a guy sitting there watching for an hour. He works at the steel factory. Excuse me, he's only used to eating buckwheat. And of course, when he has this idea in his head that in order to eat properly and be healthy, you need to make some huge, crazy amount of money, that completely discourages him from wanting to get into this industry at all or to learn how to eat properly. Tell me, is it really necessary to earn a lot of money? And is it really true that ordinary guys, hard workers, regular people can't afford to eat properly?
That's the point, that healthy eating, let's start with you. If we talk about the general concept, what is healthy eating? Healthy eating means clean eating. The concept of clean meal, clean eating. That's what we understand as well. It's buckwheat, it's an apple, it's a banana, not some kind of quinoa.
Which is basically just buckwheat anyway. Well,
alright, but that's not what I meant. Here's a 10-point scale. Here's the perfect product. It's the product that's grown in your own garden with your own grandmother. That's the perfect product. For example, an apple. And then there's, for example, apple juice in some kind of carton. So if the first is a 10, this is a 1. So the ideal product is the kind of product that we can interpret, not combinations. Well, like chips, that's also...
potatoes. The closer a product is to nature, meaning you can catch, grow, or get it, the better.
To obtain it, then that's healthy food. Not, not a candy bar. Exactly, that's a good example. A protein bar or a chicken egg.
A chicken egg, chicken.
An egg, yes, so that's closer. But an Insta blogger will advertise...
a bar?
Let's be honest, she'll promote a bar, but who would promote a chicken egg or lentils? Who needs that? Me.
No one will advertise it, you can't make money from it.
Exactly, Sash, we know this well.
Yeah, money rules the world. As they said in the movie Revolver, it all comes down to one common question. What does this give me? Naturally, people won't advertise and tell you to eat buckwheat. They'll say you need to eat quinoa, you need to eat avocado. Simpler is better in my view, like with buckwheat. I'm not imposing my opinion.
Exactly, simpler is better.
And the fewer ingredients in the food, meaning it's not some super crazy complicated dish, the easier it is to digest. And actually, most of the time, the more beneficial it is. The simpler it's prepared, the better. Yes.
Yes.
The question is, that's the point.
That's it. That's what healthy eating is. So, again, speaking about a small income, you shouldn't spend money on beer and chips. Potatoes. Okay, yes, you might say potatoes are starchy. Okay, potatoes, green vegetables, any green vegetables, grains, and white meat, poultry, eggs, chicken. Everything's full of antibiotics now.
Like
everything is poison, everything is medicine. Only the dose determines whether a substance is poison or medicine. These are the words from ancient medicine.
There was also a question from subscribers regarding the temperature of food. For example, I came back from a workout, and the goal of my workout is to lose weight. And so I have a chicken breast. I take it from the freezer, from the fridge. Well, not from the freezer, from the fridge. I take it ready-made from the fridge. And I start eating it cold. Another person asks, why eat it cold? Eat it hot. It's tastier and easier. And there are two camps here. Some say that you burn more calories eating cold food and it's harmless for the gastrointestinal tract. So I have two questions. First, is it harmful, for example, to eat meat cold if we're talking specifically about protein? And does the calorie content of the product change? You basically need to heat it before eating. Some diets even...
drink.
Cold water. What's your opinion on cold food?
Who study dietetics without being a doctor? I mean, right now, I don't want to say anything bad about anyone.
Go ahead.
But there's this phrase like, eat cold food, it takes longer to warm up, so you burn more calories. That's the whole way of thinking. Why not keep quiet about microbiota? Instead, they should ask, how can I influence my microbiota? What is microbiota? Is it nonsense? No, microbiota.
It's our microflora. Yes, that's...
Microflora refers to all the gut bacteria that produce either beneficial or harmful substances. We should consider them too, not just ourselves, and think about whether they're hot or cold. That's why, if we eat cold food, like cold chicken, and can't digest it well, symptoms will appear eventually, even if not immediately. We could again risk further disrupting microbial diversity, which we need to understand. Yes, this might seem like something out of science fiction to someone who isn't prepared, but nevertheless, the food still needs to be digested. So, instead of thinking that I have to spend some calories more or less to heat up my food, it's better to just eat properly warm food, actually enjoy it, and eat a little less, rather than hoping that something will warm up on its own. And again, yes, you're right, of course, more calories are spent on warming up the food, but nevertheless, friends...
Basically, if you put a cake in the fridge or freezer and eat it, it won't save you from gaining fat. On your butt.
By the way, about the cake, I'll answer that now. About the meat, yes. But about the cake, actually, that's a great idea. One of my patients told me about it. So, she buys a cake and she knows she's going to eat the whole cake. She cuts it into pieces, puts it in the freezer, and just takes out one piece at a time. It takes a long time to thaw in the fridge, and when it thaws, she eats it.
So she just can't, either way.
She'll eat the whole cake at once, or she'll put it in the freezer, and then she'll have to wait.
There's no way out. It's like, ice cream from the freezer. Calories right away. You need those calories. That's an interesting question, too. One I'd like to know the answer to myself. When you go into a store, it doesn't matter. You look at any drink, mineral water. There's Yasintuki, there's Borjomi, there's Nabeglavi, so many different kinds. Let's take Narzan, for example. And there are all sorts of Narzan. This kind of Narzan, that kind of Narzan. And in fact, people mostly choose just based on taste. I have a question for you. What place does mineral water have in a healthy lifestyle diet? How much? How much of it can you drink per day? And teach us how to choose the right mineral water.
So, first of all, mineral water is medicinal. That means it's a medicinal water. If this water is medicinal, you can't drink it on a regular basis because it's for medicinal treatment. For example, Yesuntuki, I know a lot about Caucasian mineral waters because my parents went there all their lives and I've been going there since I was 5 years old. Every year since I was 5, well, almost every year. Vesentuki, Kislovodsk, Zhiznenovotsk, Pyatigorsk, these are the cities. Take Yesentuki as an example. Yesentuki number 17 is salty, so we don't need extra salt. Now, Yesentuki number 4. The water is optimal in terms of salt and composition, and it is perfect for improving the condition of the intestines. First, for improving bile, and second, but it still should be used according to indications. Therefore, if there are small stones in the gallbladder, I'm just afraid that a person might drink it and could provoke a colic. Well, yes. That's why I definitely won't give recommendations like that. But water from Sentuki 4, of course, is the best water for our patients to improve their intestinal condition. As for example, donat magnesium, for example, water with more...
I quite like it.
Well, okay, but again, what does magnesium do? Again, it can improve the intestines, it fights, it's water, it helps with prevention.
Peristalsis too.
It boosts peristalsis and prevents constipation. So if a person is prone to constipation, then accordingly water options with more magnesium will be optimal. I'll say even more, detoxes in many clinics are done with English salt. English salt is...
Magnesium sulfate?
Magnesium sulfate, yes. So patients pay a lot of money, they drink this English salt, they get diarrhea, and they're happy. A girl lost 3 kilograms in her life. She could have lost 3 kilograms, but here she started drinking English salt and lost 3 kilograms.
It's very relaxing to bathe with it.
It's relaxing.
All right, got it. But with mineral water like Donut, we drink it as regular water. So why am I asking about the norm for Donut? Drinking 2 liters might give me diarrhea.
It will happen. Diarrhea will happen. Because there is more salt in medicinal water than in table water. That's why there's a difference. Table water, medicinal water, drink table water. Those same 1.5 liters, 2 liters, that's about table water.
Water? And how much water should you drink in general? Well, someone asks, it's 30 milliliters per kilogram. I always use this as a guideline.
I'll tell you as well, yeah.
I go by thirst, the color of my urine, things like that. I'm not a fan of numbers, but what about you?
Things like that. I'm just telling you, some marketing specialist will probably kill me as soon as I leave the studio. I'm talking about water. When the plastic bottle was invented, it had to be sold. How do you sell a plastic bottle?
Should you say that you need to drink?
At first, they said that people need to drink, that we would pour beer into plastic bottles, but I realized that people don't drink as much beer as they drink water.
And water already costs more than gasoline.
That's why water plus plastic bottles just multiplied plastic sales many times over. But everyone sees it, everyone sees how many plastic bottles are floating in the ocean. This is about the fact that you need to drink water constantly, all the time. It must be from a plastic bottle, not a filter. You can't drink from a filter, only a plastic bottle. That was obviously sarcasm. So that's regarding the question about plastic. As of today, the only correct recommendation is not to count numbers but to look at your needs. Your need is determined by the color of your urine. If your urine is yellow and if it's as dark as tea, it means you're definitely not drinking enough water. Urine should be light in color or straw yellow. That means you're drinking enough water. It's very simple. That's it. That's the whole answer. But again, which drink is better? Water? Is it better than coffee or juice?
Guys ask as well, what about food? What if I'm eating? Subtitle editor. And can I drink? And does it depend, can I drink? Well, the answer to this question depends on what I'm eating, for example, right now. Well, for example, let's say I'm having a meal, a steak, and I drink a liter of water. Or, okay, maybe not cola, but water. And someone says the gastric juice is mostly made up of water. The percentage of hydrochloric acid there is 2%, maybe even less. You can drink it without issue. It won't dilute. But where's the limit? How much is okay? How much isn't? And what's your view on this? Yes.
The line is in the numbers. You can. Food. Yes, yes, yes. You can answer me now. Objects say yes. Water flows along the lesser curvature straight to the intestines. They've been talking about this for 100 years already. Regarding how much water, when I eat, I can drink water so I don't choke on lentils or steak. I can wash it down.
So it goes down easier, so it's easier.
So it goes down, so it's easier to chew. But a liter of water is a lot. A liter of water is a whole bottle.
Of water. Listen, some people sit and say, I drink a liter before lunch. Go ahead, before lunch.
Drink it. It will all be absorbed and digested.
So that you eat less, meaning you drink it and then immediately sit down to eat. There are
such tricks. You really will absorb less and you'll want to eat less too. But again, you shouldn't wash down a steak with a liter of water. Because the sphincter will open, it won't be fully digested in the stomach, and again, it won't break down into peptides. This steak will end up in the intestines, and there will be no one left to chew it there. That's why I wouldn't wash down meat with liters of liquid, but drinking water is perfectly fine. Go ahead, drink up, just don't overdo it.
Drink water? Question: water is obviously useful, necessary, and should always be present in sufficient amounts in the body. We've figured out how, but there are treats like carbonated drinks. What do you think about them?
Again, about soda. Yasentuki?
Donat,
If we're talking about Yasentuki and donut, I'll say this. And if we want to get more benefits for the intestines from this water, we shouldn't drink it all at once. With the bubbles, with the carbonation, first pour the half-liter bottle into 2 glasses, stir out the bubbles with a spoon and warm it up a bit. Again, this is the water's medicinal property. Take Yasentuki, Zheleznovodsk and Kislovodsk. The water there is always served warm.
Yes, by the way, I noticed there, when you go to different taps,
it's heated, yes.
And I don't really like the taste of warm water, of course, but it...
better for intestines and yolks.
Taking Bojomi or Nazan straight from the fridge isn't ideal. They should be warmed first.
That's just for taste, for pleasure. If we're talking about the effect on the intestines and the gallbladder, to improve the condition of the intestines and gallbladder, the water should be without gas, let the gas out, and warm it up just a little bit.
Thus, the minimum is room temperature, but it's better to warm it up, yes.
Slightly. Now, let's talk about carbonated drinks. In general, healthy eating is a lifestyle anyway, and we see healthy eating as this road, a long road of a healthy lifestyle that lasts a lifetime. We can turn right or left. Well, I drank some cola. For example, I don't usually drink cola, but I remember a couple of years ago in Sochi, I just wanted it. I really wanted it. I just couldn't resist. I bought that cold cola at the store and I drank it. I didn't even finish it. That's it. So you don't have to torture yourself for years and not allow yourself to eat what you really want.
Find the addiction.
It's better to eat it and forget about it. Yes, it's better to eat it and forget about it. Now about addiction. That's it. Glycomania is an addiction to sugar. It's not as strong, it's different from drug addiction, alcohol addiction, or smoking. If you cut out sugar for a week, strictly cut out sugar for a week, your cravings decrease. After 2 weeks, your cravings decrease even more. After a month, they decrease even further. And that's when you can have something sweet, enjoy it, eat it slowly, making sure no one distracts you with conversations or questions at that moment. Enjoy it, and that's it. And then you go back to healthy eating again. This also applies to sodas and so on. Tell me.
Sweeteners. Nowadays there are a lot of bars, especially all sorts of mineral waters that people drink at the gym, for example. Not isotonic drinks, but all kinds of beverages that have 0 calories, but they contain a lot of sweeteners. And the main problem for many guys and girls too is that they crave sweets. They restrict themselves and then start eating a lot of bars, and in large quantities. It says on the bar that there's no sugar, or they write no added sugar. And because there's a lot of sugar substitute in there, they start having bloating. Yes, they get bloated. In every
question, there's already an answer.
Yes, that's your attitude toward water with sugar substitute. So, is it still better for him to drink it with sugar and just a little? Or should he try? Well, because usually when they drink it with sugar, it's enough for them. When they use artificial sweetener, they often overconsume it and experience side effects. That's it.
The problem concerns the intestines, specifically irritable bowel syndrome and small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I think many listeners have heard these words like, again, bloating. It's not just some random symptom, it's a symptom of various functional disorders of the intestines. In that case, that there's one proven method. Again, this is a medical nutrition program. You can't just use it on your own right away. This is the exclusion of so-called FODMAPs, fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. These are FODMAPs. Polyols are sugar alcohols, are things like erythritol. These are
the things that are in bars.
That's erythritol, right? So they exclude it. So if there's bloating, then no. If there's bloating, then all sugars are completely removed. If there's no bloating, you don't have to avoid them. You can use sweeteners or fructose, or in the end, small amounts of sugar. But if you have bloating, avoid these products completely. Tell me.
Guys say, I woke up and my stomach was so flat, almost stuck to me. Well,
great, that's it.
Yeah, but once I eat a bit, I mean...
Depends on what I ate.
Well, for example, like a standard breakfast or something. And the main problem is that sometimes, you want to burp, right? Yeah. But it's not like there's gas or anything. Not like a carminative effect where the gas comes out. It's just that your stomach turns into a drum. Like you ate, I don't know, a huge watermelon.
It's food hypersensitivity.
What should I do?
Identify the product that causes this situation. If you ate boiled buckwheat, then the situation, there won't be any bloating. If you just overate, then again, there will be bloating. For example, overeating at breakfast can cause a runny nose. This reaction after breakfast is called hypersensitivity. So, with excess food, you shouldn't have overeaten, shouldn't have been greedy at the buffet and eaten so much that later, and...
How do you check? Here's what you would recommend them to check. Dietary, because
here, of course, well, now the listeners might want to hear, maybe they'd like to hear an answer, or maybe take some kind of test, maybe genetic testing. No, I won't recommend taking genetic testing right away. First, a detailed medical history and a food diary are collected. That is, before doing genetic testing, immunological tests, spending a lot of money on biomarkers, you just need to keep a food diary. It's about the time of eating, the meal itself, symptoms, and the time of eating. We in the medical community know that a properly collected medical history is most important. And it's exactly the person themselves who can determine this. Most often it's tomatoes, eggplants, bell peppers, maybe onions, garlic, maybe legumes, maybe excess sugar, and a Western type diet. These are the most common causes that can trigger this.
These symptoms. Overall, what do you think of food intolerance or hidden allergy tests? Because when I took those tests, well, I don't know, I had the feeling that they gave them to some kind of gorilla. Because there, except for bananas, spinach, and a couple of other green foods, I wasn't allowed to eat anything else at all. If this and that aren't allowed, what is? Just water and greens, sit and chew, bananas weren't even allowed? And that's why, honestly, I'm pretty skeptical about it. But I found a shrimp, like an actual shrimp. That was my biggest find, really the biggest. And I really did find a shrimp. And I don't eat them, but
When you were eating shrimp, you couldn't have suspected anything.
you know, I used to eat them quite often, so I didn't swell up that much. I had a swelling syndrome with delayed symptoms. I'd eat one day and swell up the next. That's it.
Exactly. So there was a symptom. Yes, there was a symptom. How do you check for that? There's another option, an elimination diet program. Elimination, we remove everything that could potentially cause it, potentially. But again, we just know from statistics that I listed some foods, they can cause symptoms, so we remove all of them. We leave only the simplest foods, buckwheat, turkey, and even those are prepared in the most gentle ways. All the symptoms are gone, we feel better. Then we add one product every 2 to 3 days and check. So you remove it, eat a shrimp, and then a symptom appears.
A symptom appeared. You know, sometimes I do that. It's a challenge.
Yeah, it's difficult.
I agree, it's not hard. I sometimes do the same. A patient comes in with multiple issues. He has a vitamin D deficiency, low iron, and something else, but his testosterone is a disaster. And people kept trying to convince him that he had prostatitis and that he had mental issues and something else. I said, let's not treat prostatitis. Yes, maybe as a consequence it's already there, but let's start with testosterone and just see the effect of testosterone alone, nothing else. We'll monitor the symptoms. He asked, why? Is my vitamin D low? I say, let's do this so you can understand for yourself and clearly see how much your symptoms depend on your testosterone level. Let's try that for 2-3 weeks and you'll notice your prostatitis improve, your mental state change, and you'll feel more balanced. And then we'll add the rest. That way you'll figure out a lot for yourself. It's the same here. So, are these tests really worth the money or not?
These tests can only be ordered by a doctor in order to confirm or refute their hypothesis.
Some kind of marker, basically.
Yes, that is, we confirm or refute based on the medical history data, and not rush to the nearest lab to take tests. But, dear friends, you still need to keep in mind that all genetic tests... Listen, I'll tell you, then with this you...
Go ahead, don't be shy. We're here. 2 presidents, our studio, we're in charge.
You'll remove it if I say anything extra in the report. For genetic tests, every doctor gets, of course, a commission, a pretty good commission. That's why, of course, many doctors want to prescribe genetic tests to earn more money.
And I'll add from myself, when they say, well, I prescribe them, but it's not like I'm using a promo code or anything. I'll let you in on a secret. They enter your last name, first name, and patronymic, check the database for your tests, and if you've given those details, it means a doctor referred you. So you referred them, and you'll get a bonus. That's why you don't even need to use a discount code or a link. He just needs to know where you took the tests and what tests you took. And you'll come to show him these test results, right?
Yes.
Yes, Oleg, I have a question. I can't tolerate dairy, and some others can't tolerate gluten. And the question is this.
You know this without any tests, right? Well...
Yes. The question is, you know, about dairy, if it still doesn't sit well, yeah, what can you do about it, and is there any way to fix it?
Yes, let's talk about dairy. This is a very important question. It's always asked. Let's break it down point by point. So, lactose intolerance. Which has more lactose? Milk, cottage cheese, or cheese? Milk has the most. So we try cottage cheese, if there's intolerance or not. If there is, we try cheese, if there's still intolerance. So, the issue is probably not with lactose, but with casein. A1, which is found more in cow's products. So we switch to goat products. If there's no reaction to goat products, then everything is fine. So you have cheese in the evening. Goat's A2 is less allergenic than casein A1. And if there's a reaction to both goat products, cow's dairy products, and sheep's products, then it means there may be an intolerance to both casein and lactose. Question. By completely removing dairy products, to avoid the risk of osteoporosis, we then need calcium. We get calcium either from sesame paste, or accordingly we take calcium supplements. That is, you can't just snap your fingers and exclude an entire food group without understanding what alternatives you should have.
By the way, it's tasty. I haven't even tried sesame paste.
It's tasty, yeah, tasty. Hummus is made by mixing chickpeas and sesame paste.
With some milk. Got it. And what about gluten?
The situation with gluten is more complicated because, for example, a symptom like attention deficit may be related to gluten or it may not be related to gluten. The most pronounced symptoms are those related to the gastrointestinal tract. You remove gluten and you feel better right away. It's immediately clear, but again, let's look into the trickiness of it. Gluten. When did the story of excluding gluten from the diet start? Well, this wasn't in the 90s. Then suddenly it became so popular. Here I can only guess, well, we got cinema now, why eat wheat when we have movies? Expensive movies, or wheat, which our country lacks, but can't we have them? Is just gluten. But that foreign movie without gluten, that's allowed.
And many gluten-free products, gluten-free, they're usually more expensive.
Sugar is gluten-free, and gummy candies are gluten-free too. So before we cut out gluten, we first remove fast food from the diet, and instead of a Western diet, we use a Northern diet. Northern means our local diet. We eliminate all trans fats, preservatives, colorings, and flavorings. So how do we know what we're reacting to? And if the reaction continues after that, then we can start to make assumptions. Gluten! But you can't blame gluten when you're eating burgers. You can't blame gluten when your diet is hot dogs and pizza.
Intolerances like gluten or dairy may be improved or reduced with supplements. But if someone always drinks milk and can't go without it, the whole family suffers at home each time.
Drink lactose-free milk?
Well, all right.
Then should I drink alternative milk?
No, I mean, if it gets into the body, is it okay or still not recommended? It's impossible to fix this. He will always have bloating, there will be gas, swelling, and drowsiness. We
all know very well that we don't treat the symptoms, we treat the cause. This is...
By the way, the next question.
It's just that, yes, many of our doctors are focused on treating symptoms. We need to treat the cause. Gas is just a symptom. The cause is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth syndrome, and that's what we need to fight.
Explain in simple terms, what is the reason for people who can't digest dairy? Well, the mechanism itself, how it happens, and about gluten, for example, if someone gets bloated from gluten...
Well, again, there are many reasons. There are also genetic intolerances, such as when both mother and child have gluten intolerance. Let me say this. What I'm about to say is not a cure-all. Nevertheless, I would still start working through the gut. Still. I mean, maybe I've talked too much about the gut today, but still, it's really the most important organ that we need to take care of. We change the Western type of diet, we eliminate all harmful things including gluten and lactose as well. We stick to a gentle diet for a couple of weeks and then gradually start introducing other foods. So, what is the difference? What is the difference between a gluten allergy and gluten sensitivity? A gluten allergy causes immediate symptoms from just smelling wheat, while gluten sensitivity occurs after eating large amounts. So in this case, the solution for such a person is to remove it for 2 or 3 weeks using a gentle diet, specially selected, their individually tailored diet. After that, start adding it back in little by little and watch for a reaction. If you eat a lot, you get a reaction. If you eat just a little, there's no reaction. And there you go, your small amount of milk in your coffee without which you can't live. There is...
a media dietitian who says you shouldn't eat fish at all. Here.
In general, here is a media dietitian who says you shouldn't eat any dairy at all. Bloggers who say things like that. And after that, the patient completely cuts out dairy products, doesn't eat dairy for many years, ends up with osteoporosis and a hip fracture. Who's at fault? You shouldn't have followed the blogger, and he shouldn't have interfered in things he doesn't understand. This is important. When we cut out an entire food group, we can actually provoke a disease. When we cut out a food group, we always talk about alternatives to that food group. If you completely cut out dairy products, make sure to get calcium. If you completely cut out meat, okay, get your protein from other sources. You can't just say to remove something and that's it. You need to say what to replace it with. That's very important.
Oleg, you know, we have a saying among doctors, probably all doctors have it. You can't move science forward or backward, so you have to push it sideways. And a lot of people start making videos. Vitamin D is harmful, omega-3 is harmful, air is harmful, soon even pooping will be too. I mean, sometimes it even gets to the point of being farcical.
And
About what people like to film, something, well, basically, Dimatorzok, something that attracts attention. And now it's trendy to lose weight on burgers, lose weight on ice cream, and there I am, drinking alcohol, eating a burger, ice cream, and still losing weight. And for some reason, the main criterion is the reduction of subcutaneous fat percentage. What do you think of these diets people use to lose weight? For example, people can lose weight eating junk food, even if it's not a real burger.
on junk food, yes. Okay. For example, on junk food, we reduce, well, to lose weight. On junk food, we still need to reduce our calorie intake by default.
Yes, I eat fried food, but it lacks minerals and vitamins containing mostly sugars.
Yes, there are no vitamins, no vitamin D, no calcium, just the minimum calories. We will lose weight. Yes, we will lose weight. We will lose weight. I'm willing to bet that we will lose weight. That's how it will be. But in addition to losing body fat, we will also lose muscle mass several times over. And that's regarding... It's very important to keep in mind that weight... It's easy to lose and muscle mass decreases quickly, but it's extremely difficult to restore muscle mass. When someone quickly loses 10 kilograms in a month, for example, minus 10 kilograms in a month, we look at body composition analysis by impedance studies. The fat and muscles disappeared, but the person soon regained 10 kilograms. He lost 7 kg of fat and 3 kg of muscle, but when he regains weight, he'll only gain 1 kg of muscle and 10 kg of fat. So the weight returns, muscle decreases, and mitochondria decline. Try losing weight on burgers after that. Yeah.
Because muscles themselves are smaller in volume. For example, 5 kg of muscle takes up 4 to 5 times less space than 5 kg of fat. Secondly, when you gain muscle, and for example, girls don't change in weight, they look better. That's because the fat was replaced. Partially, or more precisely, the muscles partially replace the fat. They keep burning calories for her, but her weight doesn't change, even though she looks better. Many people say they want to lose weight to 50 kilos and reach that goal, but what does that 50 really mean? And why do you look worse in the mirror than before you started losing weight?
Yeah, because there's fat, there are bones, there's skin, but there's no muscle. So where is the fat going to burn?
Especially, by the way, for girls. For them, it's also a depot, including iron. Few muscles, low. The pool of stored iron is low, so there are a lot of problems. By the way, about iron in red meat, I have a few questions. We all hear very often that red meat causes cancer.
An excess of red meat can potentially be one of the risk factors. And
How much is considered excess? For example, I eat red meat, and you said you eat as much as doesn't make you feel bloated. I eat it every day.
well, red meat, yes. But again, we're talking about priorities here. For us, red meat isn't just protein, it's also a source of saturated fats. An excess of saturated fats. Again, what does excess mean? We look at the analysis. According to low density and high density lipoproteins, if you eat too much, if a person eats red meat, their low density lipoproteins increase accordingly. Triglycerides may also increase. How do you correct all this? With statins or something?
When you create diets for people, how many servings of red meat do you include per week?
I usually include the classic 2 servings of red meat per week. I focus on white poultry meat because it has less saturated fat, and I emphasize fish as a source of unsaturated fatty acids. Because again, this lowers and improves our lipid profile, it reduces low-density lipoproteins and increases high-density lipoproteins. So everything is exactly as needed.
How should it be cooked? At restaurants they ask, how would you like it cooked? Most people choose based on taste. I'd like to know which meat is healthier. Is it something like carpaccio? Or maybe some kind of tartare, I see? Or is it something that's cooked until it's like a shoe sole? Where's the benefit or harm? Which is better? As a nutritionist, what do you recommend? Just say which way is best. No need to explain.
Steamed veal cutlets.
It's better when they're ground up since they're ready for digestion. Yes, that's right.
Better prepared. So it's like patties, not steak. But again, there's nothing wrong with eating a steak once a week. We always say that we don't do any radical nutrition programs. That's very important. Don't do it, meaning don't go to extremes, like no sugar at all. I will never eat sugar again. I won't eat it anymore. This might work for the first month, it works, but then you eat when you want to. Sometimes. The same goes for red meat. If you want it, eat it, but
It's actually better when it's undercooked.
well, not every day undercooked, because overcooked red meat leads to the formation of advanced glycation end products, which stands for advanced glycation end products. That is, when glycogen breaks down, glucose binds to proteins, forming insoluble compounds that themselves worsen the condition of blood vessels, leading to endothelial dysfunction. And a person may not understand this now, but they will understand it in 10 years.
So in fact, it's basically fried glycogen.
Fried glycogen, to find out if there's dysfunction. And whether I have it, for example, it's actually very simple. Get an ultrasound of the brachiocephalic arteries. Here are the vessels. Take a look at the duplex scan and see what kind... Ask the doctor about the thickness of my intima media complex in the brachiocephalic vessels. Let's see. If intima media complex thickness is 0.6, 0.7, don't worry about it. Is your intima media thickness 0.8, 0.9? Switch to a healthy diet, gentle and balanced, without fatty or fried foods. An intima media thickness of 0.8, 0.9 indicates a high risk of atherosclerosis. If we're discussing the numbers, it's a great checkup. Get an ultrasound to learn the full truth about yourself.
Oleg, and now they're asking about foods. With negative calories, do they actually exist or not? For example, like cucumbers. It's believed that you spend more calories digesting and absorbing it than it actually contains.
I'll eat a big, huge piece of red meat steak and just in case, finish it off with a cucumber so that there are negative calories.
So you don't actually believe in negative calories? No.
If you eat exclusively arugula, then yes, it exists. Because if we're only talking about arugula, it's true that to digest arugula, you need more calories than are actually in the arugula itself. But we can't survive on just arugula. But I would talk more about satiety rather than negative calories. That is, when we eat a salad with every meal. Friends, if you don't have chronic gastritis, or if your chronic gastritis is in stable remission, having vegetables with every meal will reduce your overall calorie intake. It's the same as your friend with water.
He drank. Yes, Oleg, you specialize in diabetes, like many others. Well, first of all, let's start with what diabetes actually is. I'd like you to explain it to them in simple terms.
And insulin resistance. What
Is insulin resistance? What is diabetes? And what is the main difference between type 1 and type 2?
Let's start by figuring out insulin resistance then. Insulin resistance is a decrease in the sensitivity of target organ tissues to the action of insulin, meaning a decrease in the sensitivity of target organs. So the liver and muscles respond worse to insulin. And why does this happen? There are many reasons. One of the most important reasons is the development of abdominal obesity and the Western type of diet. Plus, fat accumulation in the abdominal cavity provokes fat deposition in ectopic locations. What does ectopic fat deposition mean? This buildup in the abdomen is ectopia. It shouldn't accumulate in the abdominal cavity. Fat should be stored in the subcutaneous tissue, not on the intestinal loop. If it accumulates on the intestinal loop, it means that by default it is already accumulating between muscle fibers and in the liver. And thus it reduces the tissue's sensitivity to insulin. If you lose weight, sensitivity will improve. Now, about diabetes. Insulin resistance is not that super scary. Is your glucose level normal, and can it be normal even with insulin resistance? If glucose rises with insulin resistance, does it mean there is enough insulin or not enough? It means there is already not enough insulin. Because insulin should maintain glucose levels. Regardless of whether there is resistance or not, glucose should be normal. By Russian standards, it should be under 6, but it's even better if we keep glucose around 5, 5, 5, 6, well, 5, 7, but not higher. Glucose increases to 6.1, 6.2. This means that there is already not enough insulin. It means that the cells that produce insulin are already being damaged. This is already damage to the beta cells. Impaired fasting glycemia develops, or in simple terms, prediabetes.
That means your blood sugar is already high in the morning, even on an empty stomach.
It's not 7, the threshold for diabetes, but prediabetes is present, indicating beta cell pathology affecting insulin production. If you don't change the situation now, don't change your diet, and don't exercise, then eventually, in about 5 years, this will lead to diabetes. So what is diabetes?
Diabetes, both type 1 and 2, results from damage to beta cells in the pancreas.
Beta cells, yes, which produce insulin. And you might ask, what about there? In type 1 diabetes, most cells die rapidly and nearly all at once. With type 2 diabetes, beta cells also die, but gradually and slowly.
Type 2 almost always becomes type 1 over time if the person lives long enough.
It doesn't become type 1. It's just, yes, the cells will die, but the type 2 diabetes diagnosis stays, and without cells, insulin will be required. So insulin is needed for type 1 diabetes, and insulin may also be required for type 2 diabetes. When the cell dies, but it's important not to let the cells die.
Many people call type 1 diabetes insulin dependent. What's the difference? It makes us non-living. They take insulin, especially if they've just been diagnosed, follow a diet, and take medications that lower their blood sugar levels.
Blood glucose and sustain these cells, but what happens when a cell dies? And you can't do without insulin. So now please let me finish. That's why it's very important with type 2 diabetes, especially with type 2 diabetes, to carefully monitor glucose levels and pay close attention to your diet to prevent the death of those very beta cells. That's why lifestyle is fundamentally important when it comes to diabetes. As an endocrinologist and dietitian, we consider diabetes a lifestyle rather than a disease.
You need to accept it. Many people with diabetes have a mother with diabetes, a father with diabetes, or a grandfather with diabetes. You ask them and they say, yes, yes, there is. But let's talk about those who don't have any diabetics in their family.
No one is immune to diabetes. Not you, me, or anyone.
Unfortunately, not everyone knows this. Everyone thinks that if their dad, mom, grandfather, or grandmother didn't have diabetes, then they'll be fine. But is that really the case? Maybe.
Maybe even your great-grandmother or great-grandfather.
Tell me, what kind of lifestyle would lead a person to develop it? Constantly eating sweets, feeling stressed, and staying inactive?
Here's the thing. It's actually a myth that if I eat a lot of sweets, I'll get diabetes. That's a myth. Because you can actually be metabolically healthy. Obesity is such an interesting word. When a person, well, has obesity, all their health indicators are perfect, something to envy. They eat whatever they want and stay healthy, but after 6 years, their health declines. That's why it's only a matter of time. The parents might not have diabetes, but severe stress can trigger the disease. Returning to our first question, when you and I, Sasha, began talking, but men eat worse because their priority is different, making money. If for us, health becomes one of the most important priorities, I'm not talking about a 100% priority right now. There's a word for it, what's it called, a wheel or something? Balance. So one thing can't be the only priority. Work, family, and hobbies are just as important priorities as health. I'm saying it correctly, right? Everything should be in moderation. Too much work, too much stress can even trigger diabetes.
Call it the bedsheet principle. You see, our body is like a bedsheet, or a tablecloth on a table works as an example too. When I start pulling here, these lines, everything, they go all over. Everything gets pulled. Yes, everything drags along with it. Yes. For example, if we don't check our blood sugar, right? Often guys come to the appointment, their blood sugar's already at 10 and they say, it's fine, I don't feel anything. Yeah, that's why.
Because metabolism doesn't hurt. Yeah, and the blood sugar is already at 10. And when it's 10, that's not just diabetes anymore. That's already a complication of diabetes.
To understand. So what are the signs that a person has a problem with blood sugar levels or insulin sensitivity? That is, it's hard to lose weight, easy to gain, swelling, drowsiness, weakness. These are the signs.
Frequent nighttime urination and dry mouth. This is not just a sign of diabetes, it's a sign of already advanced, complicated diabetes. You need to keep in mind.
Now everyone who urinates at night will run for their glucometers. Yes, let me add something. There are different reasons. Sometimes, because of bad hormones, because of low hormones, like low testosterone at night, we might wake up. Here we're talking about the volume of diuresis, meaning that at night we produce a lot of urine because we drink a lot. When
you go to get testosterone tested for Sasha, get glucose tested for me, just in case, let
it be done. So this is polyuria, a lot. Polydipsia, yes.
Polyuria, polydipsia. And so look, a person with a blood sugar of 10, well, how many years has it been since he last did a biochemistry test? He hasn't done a biochemistry test for 10 years, so now his blood sugar is already 10. But what if he had done it regularly? That's called a medical checkup.
Second, polydipsia. By the way, that's thirst. And polyphagia is the third. We have too much...
We want to eat.
Yes, we really want to eat. That's why
Let's not wait until symptoms appear, but rather go and get a checkup.
if you think you have diabetes, where should you begin? Which tests would you suggest?
Take glucose and HbA1c.
And that's enough.
Fasting glucose and glycated hemoglobin are the main tests you need. As for taking an insulin test, it's primarily needed for the person themselves, so that, well, we needed to scare you to show that it's time to take care of yourself. Because insulin levels can be one thing today and different tomorrow. So as a test, it doesn't have super high value. But still, when a person sees that their insulin is elevated, it really can serve as a warning. That's important.
About the microbiota, I forgot to ask. Are there foods that harm the microbiota? Well, for example, not foods, but cola? Yes.
Cola, Western-style diet, burgers, excessive sugar consumption, that's one. And basically, that's enough. This is the main product. What is a Western-style diet? We've said it many times. Everyone knows. Well, I don't know who was born in the 80s and lived through the 90s. I'm talking like an old man, that's all.
I forgot to cough.
To cough, that's exactly what I mean. Do you remember that life when there was no food? No food at all. And then suddenly there was too much of it? Oh!
I remember. Do you remember?
It was great, wasn't it? I remember. Then suddenly everything appeared at once. Cakes and...
Snickers and Snickers.
Everything appeared. That's what the Western diet is. The things that came from there.
Simple, affordable products, spun with marketing. Yes, the ones they need to sell you, so you eat them and get hooked on them. It's just easy and accessible.
Snickers isn't.
Right, so all this fast food, it ruins our microflora. Let it ruin it.
Our microflora, but why do we need it? Tell me, why do we need microflora? What does microflora feed on? Not Snickers, fiber, and similar substances? Fiber. Cucumbers?
Celery. Oleg, we're explaining and discussing the microbiota. But unfortunately, most of the subscribers think that if there's no constipation or diarrhea, then everything is fine, but inside there is something going on. Yes. The main role of our microflora is simply to digest food. Explain how important microflora is, and that it also regulates immune responses. And it's not just about digestion, it's also, for example, skin health. So you can see and feel it. When microflora is disrupted, skin problems begin.
Appear. The most common symptoms are constipation, diarrhea, bloating, rumbling in the stomach, and fermentation. These are the most popular symptoms, but these symptoms can further worsen the condition of the intestines. You may develop acne, and again, weakness, malaise, fatigue, and lack of sleep may also appear. And what could this suddenly be related to? Well, it could be due to impaired intestinal function. Exactly.
Tell me, and is it true that you might crave all sorts of junk because your gut flora is bad?
Does this gut flora itself provoke us to eat sweets? Yes, such a theory exists. First, we live in balance with the bacteria in our intestines. You can deny it if you want, or you can admit it, but this balance exists. That is, they live with us and are friendly with us. That's why there's a rule. If you fed yourself, feed them too. Be selfish. If you eat whatever you want, you'll get an answer someday. Impaired immune function, frequent illnesses, again, skin rashes, and a constant life that feels less like living and more like just existing. That's how I'll answer.
Oleg, I produce vitamins, I have my own brand. And do you know what the question is? As someone who knows how much raw materials cost, who knows how much it costs to produce, let's say, to missileize a product with quality, to keep the production clean and orderly, all of that also requires resources. I have a general idea of vitamin costs, but some are sold under basic, well-known names, not necessarily cheap ones.
That's exactly the answer.
And everything is all in one there.
Yes, and
Everything is there.
everything is there, and everything is in
One place.
And I'm curious, how did you do it, my friends, and why is everything there? Could a miser pays twice? There's such a saying. And by the way, the little pill...
It's like this.
Here, a little pill, and it has everything in it, but it's low. How can that be?
Well, it can't. Usually, they just sell chalk or a placebo instead of real vitamins. So you keep taking it over and over. But there are...
Placebo effects, which also... Yes,
Some people feel better from a placebo, some kind of don't feel better. Well, what did you expect? Not everyone feels vitamins. Yes. What's better? Healthy eating, that's clear, it's better. Yes, but is it better to take these kinds of bad vitamins or not take them at all? Not take them at all.
not take them at all, 100%.
So these vitamins are only good.
A person's condition can improve if you just give them a glass of water and say, "I've dissolved a great medicine for you in it. You're going to feel better now." You drink a glass of water and damn, you really do feel better.
I have an acquaintance who told me that he was sitting somewhere drinking and someone played a prank on him saying, "We put something in your drink, maybe some kind of drug." He believed it so strongly that he developed symptoms. His pupils changed size, he started sweating, and his heart raced. So, the placebo effect is real and self-suggestion, unfortunately, or sometimes fortunately, because sometimes people actually recover thanks to self-suggestion. They rely entirely on healers and shamans. That is, many illnesses in our bodies don't just appear on their own, but we create them. And we can also, if we set our bodies up the right way, well, let's say heal ourselves. And when a person truly believes, why do they say faith heals? Well, that's one of the reasons, because a person truly believes. That's important.
Yes, yes.
You briefly mentioned superfoods like avocado and so on. So what
Is a superfood, Sasha?
superfoods like chia seeds and so on, do they really exist? Or is it all just marketing and nonsense again? And ordinary, everyday foods are no worse than some superfoods that are advertised.
They just had to come up with a name for the products they wanted to sell. You need a good name, really.
Is it really all about the money? Is it that much?
I'll answer everything now. Which color is most associated with health?
Green, probably. What?
Else is associated with health? A beautiful young girl with dumbbells. So, we take some let's take a package. I'm going to teach you how to sell now. If, in the end, you don't become healthy, you'll become rich. As a side effect, maybe, as a consolation prize, after listening to this podcast, you take some kind of cereal, I don't know, you make the packaging green because it's associated with health. On the package, you put a photo of a beautiful young woman and definitely add a phrase like cholesterol-free, salt-free, gluten-free, GMO-free, added sugar, yes, enriched with vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Everything will sell like hotcakes, but it works.
Wrote it down?
Yes. Well, oil, for example, sunflower oil with no cholesterol written in big letters sells better than just regular sunflower oil.
Listen, well, but
There's no cholesterol in it, basically.
here's a question right away. A lot of guys, since they work or don't have time to cook or are single, many of them are without a partner, they don't have time to cook and don't want to buy food either. And now ready-made food is very trendy, food delivery. What do you think about it? Because, first of all, the price range is very wide, and is the food they bring really worth that price? Let's take the simplest ones for 3 days right away. They don't ask about your dietary needs or what kinds of calories, proteins, fats, or carbs they're providing. All of this is for weight loss and can be done on the website. This one is for gaining weight. What do you think?
Did you get the question? It's a very difficult, very tricky question. In Russia, we have a saying. Outbursts follow. Now I'll try to quote it. Pick the lesser of two evils. Many foreigners don't get this saying. How can you pick the lesser evil? So the question is, do I eat or not? So, we all perfectly understand that it's better to cook at home, eat homemade food, and take food in containers to work. That's the best option. But there really is no such opportunity. Well, there just isn't. That's it. Period. There is no such opportunity. Either eat fast food or order food. Ordering food, even if the food is of lower quality, is still better than eating fast food. So buckwheat from delivery, there's nothing wrong with it, even though it might be fried in sunflower oil. There's nothing wrong with that. Compared to a burger, but it's worse than if you cooked it yourself.
Yourself? Why?
Worse because there are some nuances. How much oil you add, what kind of buckwheat you use. I'm using buckwheat as an example, it's the same with meat. So, for example, you'll buy higher quality meat than what is used in delivery, but the meat used in delivery is better than what you get in chain fast food places. So we're picking the lesser evil.
Oleg, we're always talking about how there's sugar here, there's no sugar there, there's no sugar over there. But still, since I have a sweet tooth, I'd like to ask a few questions about sweets. First of all, what is the normal amount? How much sugar can you safely consume per day? It's not just about fitting it into your calorie intake. How much sugar exactly? I mean, sugar specifically.
I thought you were going to ask which restaurant sells the best croissants.
But I'd be happy to talk about that too.
I'll share it later. So what's the question? Once again,
Sugar? Right, in what form? Let's consider. Not how much you can eat, but exactly how much per day.
yes, there are again standards, official standards, international standards that added sugar. Added sugar is sugar, it's fructose, sugar, fructose, and fructose-based sweeteners. No more than 10% of total calories should come from this.
For example, if I eat ketchup with sugar in it,
That's already, listen,
that's totally different. We don't count it.
what is a 10% calorie deficit and how is it calculated? Let's figure it out now. Well, for example, absence of calories. Let's take 2,200, let's not take too much. That's the absence of calories. Multiplying by 0.1 or 10% gives 220 calories. 1 gram of protein or carbohydrates has 4.1 kcal. So, for 2,200 kcal, basically you could eat 53 grams of pure sugar. 53 grams of pure sugar, is that a lot or a little? Taking 53 grams of granulated sugar alone is a lot, but in cookies it's hardly noticeable.
Well, a lot of people ask about this. What if you add it to tea or coffee? Basically, that's the amount that would be enough for him to calmly have tea and coffee several times a day, and it would be enough for everything. But
It's not that much. But for those who basically can't live without sugar, this is the 10% norm. That's 2 candies, that's about 3 cookies, and basically that's it.
But what about hidden sugar? Should you count it or not? No.
Friends, there's another very important condition called orthorexia, when you get so obsessed with all the foods that you start seeing sugar everywhere, basically, looking for it in bread where there isn't even a gram of sugar at all. You shouldn't get too obsessed because healthy eating is just a part of our life, not the whole life. It's important, but you shouldn't get too deep into the theory of healthy eating.
Oleg, let's say I went over my sugar limit. That's it. I can't have any more sugar today. But I want something sweet. Sugar substitutes. There are different kinds, right? There are sugar substitutes in tablets, and there are sugar substitutes in packets. Well, for example, I most often use stevia. Yes,
Stevia is the most harmless one, but how harmless is it really? There is such a thing as individual intolerance. It can be to any product, it can be to garlic, it can be to stevia, it can even be to chicken. That's why stevia is the most optimal sugar substitute out of all that exist.
and the daily amount of stevia is individual.
It has a bitter taste, so you basically won't eat a lot of it anyway because it naturally tastes bitter to everyone.
But those cheap sugar substitutes, you know, like Tic Tac, like...
Looks like a Tic Tac, I don't even know what it's made of. It might be erythritol or xylitol. These are polyols. They really don't have calories, but they can cause digestive issues.
You're the author of a book that... Two, yes? Yes, you wrote two, and you wanted to give me one as a gift, but you forgot. That's why...
Since I came from Altai, not home,
He promised. By the way, Oleg came straight from the airport. He arrived right away. We really appreciate that. Yes, on a business trip. One of your books is called Keto Cooking, right? The second one, I think, is called How to Eat.
the healthy eating textbook was written by Sasha Novikov and me, and Keto Cooking was written with my student Oksana Badina.
So I have a question. What do you think about the keto diet? Well, obviously you've written about it, but what's your specific opinion? Because some people say it's the best thing there is. For example, I've read Rüdiger Dahlke's latest books, including those on diet, which he also praises. This is the closest to how we ate in ancient times.
Your attitude towards the keto diet, what kind of attitude can a person who wrote a book about the keto diet have towards it? And I'll tell you, no, it's not positive, it's individual, depending on the indications. If I write a book about the keto diet, it doesn't mean I'm a follower of the keto diet. If I write a book about the Mediterranean diet, it could be, I might not be a follower of the book, not a follower of the Mediterranean diet. Since I'm a candidate of medical sciences and you're a doctor of sciences, correct?
By the time this video is out, I'll already be a doctor, and so will you. The defense is in 2.5 weeks.
So, what's important in science is to study all the theories. Well, to study the theories, identify the pros and cons, and draw your own conclusions. We don't emphasize that only the keto diet is the best nutrition program, or that only the Mediterranean diet is. Yes, the keto diet is good, tailored for its specific audience.
Well, for someone...
Who is the audience? Who is the keto diet for? A healthy person without any chronic diseases. But again, There are diseases, again, neurological ones, where the keto diet can be useful. Epilepsy, for example. Epilepsy, but that's by indication. Again, if we're talking about keto as a way to lose weight, then you should never switch to keto. After croissants, first we switch to a traditional Mediterranean balanced diet. Then we gradually move on to the low-carb, high-fat nutrition program. It's high-fat, low-carb, but with more carbs than keto. And even if that didn't help you, as long as you don't feel worse and you don't have pain in your right upper abdomen.
Well, Oleg, many people
When they eat too much,
during the January holidays, they associate that the fastest diet, like the keto diet, will help you lose weight the quickest. And after these feasts, they fall into one of them. That's a bad option. Yes, that's a bad option. Indeed, there could be a problem after that. And then maybe when this happens, people start saying that the keto diet is evil. It's not evil, it just doesn't suit everyone. And you need to know how to start it properly.
do it correctly from start to finish, but only with proper indications. So, friends, don't look up internet diets. They don't write anything useful. There's nothing good in internet diets. You still need to do things properly. First of all, you need to eat. Today, the best concept is the concept of personalized medicine. This means that we work individually with each person and select personalized options.
A quick commercial break. I didn't invite Oleg without reason. Originally, I invited you to join our project Fitness as Science. He's our expert in nutrition and dietetics, and he's the person responsible for how our participants in the Fitness as Science project and in the app eat. He's the face of our dietetics in the app. Through these two projects, you actually help a huge number of people lose weight and get back to normal. We'll include links to Oleg in the video description, so check them out and reach out. Oleg is an excellent specialist. I highly recommend him. Thank you. And we'll also leave a link about the impact of diet on men's health in the description under this video. Tell me, please, Oleg, what kind of food worsens men's health? A lot of people ask about beer. Is it really harmful? Let's sum it up. What should men avoid? I'll answer everything.
The food that improves men's health is the one that doesn't make your belly grow. So it's not the food itself that worsens health, but rather visceral obesity that does. Men's health is very important. I think you'll probably agree that a man's health largely depends on the amount of visceral fat. Not from the subcutaneous fat in the arms and legs, but from the visceral fat in the abdominal cavity.
Yes. There's even a guideline that if your waist... Well, of course, the numbers vary for everyone. Some say 94, but it also depends on your body constitution. Someone who is 2.1 meters tall is told their waist should be 94 centimeters, but the average is about 100 centimeters. If your numbers are much higher than that, it means you might have abdominal obesity and possibly an endocrine disorder like testosterone deficiency or insulin resistance.
That's right. Yes, that's how it is.
I have a question. I'll ask it in advance. It was actually the last one in the interview, but I'll ask it now. Is it true that despite hormones and almost any endocrine problems, anyone can still lose weight?
In dietetics and endocrinology, we have algorithms for working with patients. The first task is to rule out endocrine pathology. Why do we rule it out? Well, so you don't have thoughts at night like, maybe it's hormones after all. I eat because I have an endocrine disorder. It doesn't let a person go. We rule it out. And when we see that, look, you don't have autoimmune thyroiditis leading to hypothyroidism, you don't have tumors that produce insulin, insulinomas, you don't have a prolactinoma, you don't have Cushing's disease. Damn, does that mean I'm just eating on my own after all? Yes, that means you have regular alimentary obesity, you just eat. That's it, there are no more excuses, so you need to rule them out. We rule them out, and then we start looking for the consequence, meaning to find the cause, rule out the cause, and find the consequence. The result is insulin resistance, diabetes, atherosclerosis, high uric acid, and kidney problems. These are all consequences.
I'll also share a story about a guy who just couldn't lose weight with workouts, no matter what he did. They changed his diet, added cardio, added strength training. He still wasn't losing weight, just wasn't losing weight at all. During one tough workout, we drank a lot of water and stood together in the gym. He started feeling sick and he tried to run away. But there are people bench pressing, some are lying down, some are stretching, so you can't get to the exit quickly. So basically, before he even reaches the exit, he starts throwing up. He throws up, he vomits. And big chunks of Jubilee cookies with condensed milk just flew out. He's just standing there, and honestly, he made it all the way to the stairs, which led down and out. It was the Vivat Fitness Club in Novogirevo. He didn't make it, maybe a meter short, and I could see it was scattered everywhere. So he greedily stuffed himself like that before the workout. I come up to him and say, buddy, what's going on? What is this? I mean, it happens differently sometimes. They say that I'm not losing weight due to several endocrine issues. However, even with low testosterone or insulin resistance, you can still... It's not perfect, but you can get past it. Most people still don't lose weight, mostly because they're doing something wrong or they're not putting in enough effort. Yes, as Alexei mentioned, endocrinological problems exist. There is Cushing's syndrome, there is prolactinoma, there are actually insulinomas. This
is 3-4% out of 100.
And maybe even those who are watching this video right now, among those who eat and don't lose weight, for the most part, are actually deceiving themselves. All my acquaintances who barely ate yet gained weight, and those who had 2/3 of their stomach removed or underwent gastric bypass, all miraculously began losing weight. And they lost 20, 30, even 40 kilograms. Even though before that they tried all sorts of diets, tried hypnosis, put needles in their ears, and nothing worked. I simply don't eat anything, no matter what. They remove part of the stomach, and even though the person eats the same as before, their weight drops dramatically. That's why I'm very strict about this, by the way. I'm strict with myself, and that's why I'm strict with these people too. You've told us about what makes things worse. We got it. Now tell us about the good things. For some reason, nobody asks about lunch, nobody asks about dinner either, but everyone is stuck on it. The perfect breakfast, the perfect breakfast.
In the evening, I'll address whether breakfast is necessary and if you should eat less at dinner. When we stop overeating at dinner, we'll want to have breakfast. So if I don't want to have breakfast in the morning, is it okay if I skip breakfast? Yes, you can, and you will end up having breakfast. But at the same time, you won't be overeating at dinner. If you don't overeat at dinner for 2 days, you'll eventually want breakfast, whether you intend to or not. What is the perfect breakfast? Everyone has their own, but what fills you up most? If you eat oatmeal porridge or semolina and an hour later, before you even get to work, you're already hungry, then oatmeal for breakfast is not for you.
Option in that.
It's better to eat proteins and fats like omelets.
Many people, they go to extremes, meaning they either completely ignore everything and do nothing, or they become fanatical about it. They start eating from containers with drinks from
2 hours.
Audience. Right now, those who are watching us, I trust that half of them are sitting and eating ice cream, and the other half are sitting and eating food from a container. Well, figuratively speaking, you get what I mean, right? So some guys take care of themselves while others don't. And there's just no balance. Either they eat everything, or on the contrary, they count every calorie super strictly with a calculator. How do you find that balance?
I'll use an example, like with English, an answer like this. Very often, many guys and girls write, for the new year I want to learn English, or this year I want to learn English or another language. No matter what you study, nothing changes on January 1st. On January 2nd, you start learning English and continue on the 3rd, 5th, 10th through February and into March.
Forget it.
And that's it. And you just completely stop learning English until the next year. And then you start again.
It's like preparing to start a diet on Monday.
Day by day. So if you carried a container for 2 months, then quit and ate whatever you wanted, those 2 months would be wasted. If you messed up, nonsense. That's why you just need to gradually introduce a healthy lifestyle into your everyday life. That is, don't jump headfirst into healthy eating, but build habits gradually. That is, whatever is comfortable for you, or specifically your comfortable habits.
It's easy. I drink coffee on average, mostly ground coffee, 1 at most 2 cups a day. I want to know your attitude specifically towards good coffee and in general towards the kind of coffee that's sold in capsules, for example. Yeah.
I, for example, drink coffee. When I give lectures to students, I realize that the students are so bored with me that I start to feel bad myself. I nod to my assistant brings me coffee, and I immediately feel more awake. So friends, if you see me drinking coffee during my lectures, it means you aren't asking any questions at all. And honestly, I'm really bored. That's the only reason I drink coffee when
Otherwise, in general, I don't.
Drink it. Why don't I? Not because of a secret. It's just not my drink. I like tea, I drink tea, but I don't like coffee.
What do nutritionists think about coffee?
Yes, it's not bad. There's nothing super harmful in coffee. If you have high blood pressure or hypertension, then it's different, but not otherwise. Limit coffee to 1 cup a day. If your blood pressure rises after 1 cup, consider stopping coffee completely. So there are always pros and cons to everything. 10 cups of coffee a day is a lot, and it will definitely lead to high blood pressure and dehydration. For every cup of coffee, don't forget to drink a cup of water as well. You
mentioned detox, just flew in from Altai and are heading back and creating a detox program for a major organization, right?
For us, for one of the medical clinics that are part of the sanatorium, we created a detox nutrition program in...
What is the essence of detox? So explain to the guys how they should eat. Here are some handy.
Foods, yes, I'll explain. There are also various detox options. There is fasting, complete fasting, and various smoothies, juices, cleanses, and similar options. There are many options, I won't. Right now, we don't have the opportunity to go into all the details of detoxification. We created a gentle detox program that includes food and really gentle nutrition using only exceptionally gentle cooking methods, boiling, steaming, pureeing, things that will ease functional bowel disorders and secondly help reduce weight, and accordingly with the exclusion of all possible potential triggers of chronic inflammation and intolerance. We have removed anything that might provoke
easily digestible, accessible food with no harmful ingredients. Yes, which may already, of course, and a hammer, and...
We also removed glucose, fructose, lactose, nightshade lectins, and potential allergens, since we don't know your sensitivities, so we removed everything as a precaution. But that's just to show...
How long do you need to stay on detox?
About a week.
About a week, if...
Then slowly return it.
And if the guys say, I want to use fasting, what if with fasting? If a healthy person, no health problems, with intermittent fasting or 24-hour fasting, how abruptly actually?
A rapid decrease if it's a person who wants to lose weight and their weight is over 100 kilograms. Losing weight quickly provokes the formation of gallstones. It provokes it, so I wouldn't recommend losing weight rapidly. Besides, you see, friends, what are we hoping for? If we lose 10 kilograms in a month, what do we want to achieve? To go to the sea, eat a lot there, and gain those 10 kilos back. So take a look at your weight.
Well, to be honest, most often...
Yes, exactly. But in medicine, we want to have a long-term effect. I have an important phrase that I always tell all my students, and I especially say it. The effectiveness of weight loss is determined not by the number of kilograms lost, but by how long you can maintain the result. If you lost 10 kilos and regained them, your effort wasn't effective, but losing 5 kilos and maintaining it for a year is... You did a great job.
Oleg, what should a man pay attention to if he cares about the health of his gastrointestinal tract?
Well, first of all, still at least once in a while. And now, you'll probably even tell me yourself, like, you need to get a colonoscopy.
Well, yes, after a certain age you need to, well...
It's about caring for your gastrointestinal tract. The same goes for FGDS. Sometimes you need to do a...
Cultures, for example, for microflora should not be done without indications.
Culture for microflora, colonoscopy for blood. Again, bloating and fermentation, bloating and fermentation, bloating and fermentation. We've been talking about this all day today, but we still have to say that this is not only a symptom of functional bowel disorders, this symptom can. And such symptoms can also occur with oncology. I had a patient who, well, again in a clinic in one. A few years ago, a patient with bowel cancer was treated for several years and she didn't know she had cancer. She was treating herself with badger musk.
Beaver musk, yes, musk.
Beaver, she believed she had functional bowel issues and that beaver musk would help, but a colonoscopy revealed colon cancer instead. The beaver musk didn't help. They removed it, did a resection, everything is fine, and she's recovering, but the beaver musk didn't work. That's why consultations with a gastroenterologist are still necessary, and stool tests for occult blood just in case are still necessary.
Oleg, what advice do you give to people who who constantly go to the fridge?
Yes, I do.
By the way, honestly, I suffer from this a little myself. I won't lie, I often skip meals just because I don't feel like eating, even when I know I haven't eaten enough. I know I need to eat since I haven't had much, but I just don't feel hungry right now. Then I start thinking I won't eat today, and then in the evening I start getting hungry and begin picking at things from the fridge.
Did you have enough food for lunch and dinner? I mean, when we're constantly picking at this food? First, we often lack proper meals like breakfast, lunch, snacks, and dinner, and don't give ourselves enough. That's the first thing. And the second is habit. For example, tea. We have a habit of not just drinking tea. In our country, again,
It's drinking tea with something. Well, with something, yes. And what could that something be? Usually sweets?
usually sweets. That's just how it's done. Well, for example, I teach patients to drink tea with blueberries. There's nothing wrong with that. Cold blueberries from the fridge, crunchy. You eat a blueberry and wash it down with tea. Eat one and wash it down. What difference does it make if it's blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, or nuts? Anything is better than a big candy.
You see, a lot of people struggle with wanting to eat at night. They don't try to cut it out.
They didn't eat enough because
Yeah, usually people ask, what should you eat? There are protein drinks, casein shakes. But in fact, actually, if you eat properly, you shouldn't feel hungry.
that's another point as well, which I include in nutrition programs. For example, sometimes lunch is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and the workout is at 6 in the evening. If I understood correctly, lunch is at 1, but the workout is 5 hours later at 6. By that time, everything has already been digested and absorbed. So I end up coming to the workout hungry, or sometimes with some cookies. What else did the guy bring? Well, that's it. And the best option is to have a snack with grains, not just a banana, about 90 minutes before your workout. And again in our app, the menu for which I'm almost done with. Often for an afternoon snack, I suggest a dish with grains, that is, an easily digestible bowl. For example, a small portion of grain like bulgur with finely chopped vegetables and some easily digestible protein. For example, eggs, an egg, quail eggs, or chicken breast. So you get a light bowl that you can eat cold. And this will give you much more energy than a banana. And in an hour and a half, you'll easily get to your workout. You'll train calmly, and in the evening, you won't overeat. So an afternoon snack is a full meal, it's not a candy.
Oleg, final question to wrap up. How can you explain or get your father or grandfather to understand that he is eating incorrectly, that he needs to reconsider his diet? For example, he's always eaten only sausages, it's mainly about care and health. How do you teach this? How do you communicate it?
Look, Sasha, you're a doctor of medical sciences, almost a professor in the future. You still won't be able to explain to your dad what's right and what's wrong?
I'm not an authority for my mom. The neighbor is more of an authority.
Then the neighbor. Yes, because a prophet is not recognized in his own homeland. That's true. My mom rarely listens to me. She asks questions, I suggest tests, but she always says no, there's no time, and so on. How can I diagnose or explain treatment if you won't do basic tests? Just get them done. We're not authorities for our own parents, so no, we can't explain it to them.
Oleg, thank you so much, first of all, for agreeing, and second, for being able to do it despite the circumstances. And once again, a huge heartfelt thank you for the work that you do. You guys can reach out to your colleague. I'll definitely leave a link to it in the description below this video. And I'm very glad that you're part of our big team.
Thank you, thank you. So guys, croissants, when are we going to get them? You keep asking about it all the time.